1. Letting people in before you're open, it's a trap. So I'm a bitchy waiter fan, and yesterday I saw a post he made about this girl who left a bad review for a restaurant who refused to serve her 15 minutes before they opened, on Father's Day too. Come on, they need that time to prepare. I don't know how many of you have had to deal with it, but I've had a few bad experiences with people like that. One of my first jobs was at a partial self-serve restaurant. Basically, you order from a cashier, you get your own drink and silverware, and a server brings you food, cleans up your mess and collects tip. And yes, tips are expected and common for that place. I made bank most nights. We were typically open from 11 to 9, but this particular story takes place on New Year's Day, and our boss was a real family man who cared about his employees, how they liked to party. So he cancelled the lunch shift and decided New Year's Day would just be open from 4 to 9 for dinner. I was scheduled to be the server for the shift. So to begin with, I got super wasted the night before. I spent all day at my other job, struggling with a major hangover. But somehow I survived and gathered myself for the second job. When I got there at 3 p.m., I saw one of the cooks frantically waiting for me. It turns out they didn't know what time we were opening, so they did most of my opening duties for me, like 90%. I felt so lucky. I had an hour to breeze through a few fairly easy tasks so I could prepare for the dinner. So the managers at our store were awesome people. They were only a little older than me, great at their jobs, and were as much my friends as they were my bosses. Unfortunately, they all requested off for New Year's and the boss let them. So, they brought in the GM of our sister restaurant, Ramon. I worked with Ramon once before for a catering event. He seemed nice, very meticulous about the job, we didn't have any issues then. So he's in the office doing some paperwork and I'm out in front doing the opening tasks. By 3:30, I've seen quite a few people come up to the door and notice the sign that we're not opening until 4. By this time, I'm almost done with my work. I just have to cut the bread. It won't take long, like 5 to 10 minutes or so. But then Ramon comes up to me and asks if I'm ready to open. I tell him that we're not opening until 4. He goes, yeah, but there are people at the door. But we don't open until 4. And I still have to cut bread, which the people will want with their meal. We're a fucking Italian restaurant. They need bread. Now he's getting really insistent that we open early, and I'm getting pretty irritated with him, so I tell him, do whatever you want, and start cutting bread. So he opens the doors, a few guests trickle in, and he returns to the office. The cashier wasn't on until 4:30. I'm still finishing my opening duties. The manager fought to let people come in early and then he doesn't even help them. What the fuck? So I abandon the bread and head out to take their order. It's only 2 groups of people at first, so I assume I can breeze by it and finish the bread. But after the first group is done, another family trickles in. Okay. And then another. And another. Then the first group's food is up. I have to ask the next group to wait, which they aren't happy about, and take out the first orders. While I'm doing that, a guy asks where the bread is. I tell him straight up I didn't get to prepare it because my manager wanted us to open early but didn't come out to help me. Guy doesn't give a shit, he's upset he doesn't have bread. Whatever. So I struggle through the next half hour by myself, somehow get all the orders done and get bread out eventually. A little after 4, the lunchroom is near cleared out. All the people who came in before opening were gone. And not one of them tipped. I was beyond pissed. And when Ramon finally emerged from the office, he had the fucking nerve to bitch at me about some stupid mess the previous night's closers left by the back part of the cashier section. It wasn't me, clearly, and I told him it wasn't, but he still kept complaining to me about it. I didn't know why the fuck he was telling me, and the last half hour was so crazy I just kind of laughed. He suddenly gets super serious and goes, "Why are you laughing?" In my head, because I just realized that you're a fucking joke and I hate you for what you just put me through. And really, that was not the last time I had to deal with this crazy idiot's shit. So does anybody else have any early bird gonorrhea stories? 2. Dine and Dash. Obligatory apology for formatting, on mobile. A few years ago I was a server at a country-style restaurant near a highway. The food was pretty cheap and a lot of our guests were in a hurry or traveling, so I was used to people being a little grumpy when they came in to eat. One day, 2 middle-aged women came in and sat in my section. I went to greet them and was immediately interrupted by one of the women. She told me her drink order in the rude, snappy way that all servers are familiar with. I got the drinks pretty quickly since they were my only table. When I sat them on the table, they complained that I didn't make their half-sweet, half-unsweet tea right. Whatever. I fixed it and got the food order, a Reuben sandwich with mashed potatoes and a bowl of chicken and dumplings. The whole time I was at the table they had a nasty attitude and were very dismissive of anything I was saying. The food came out in less than 10 minutes since it was just a sandwich in what is essentially a dumpling and gravy soup. After giving them a minute to taste the food, I checked back in to make sure everything was good. They denied complaints. I left the check on the table and told them to pay up front in the convenience store section of the building whenever they were ready. Throughout the meal they continued being rude but also very needy. When the meal appeared over, I went to offer them carry-out containers and asked how the meal was. They grimaced at the scraps of food left on their plates, back at me, and proceeded to tell me how they hated the food that they scarfed down but couldn't explain what in particular was wrong with the food. They demanded a manager. I pried further into what was wrong with the food and one woman stammered out that her food, chicken and dumplings that were cooked and served in heaps of gravy, were dry and the other woman's sandwich was burned. I looked at the sandwich left on the plate and asked the other lady in what way was the sandwich burnt, because we only grilled the bread on the outside, where burning would be visible. She replied, I don't know, it's just burnt. Okay. Got my manager, who typically bends over backwards for guests, and sent him out to the table. He spoke to them for about 5 minutes. He came back to the kitchen and told me he only comped the sandwich and they were both just trying to get free food. I then went out to the dining room to see they were gone. The table was empty, so I checked the store and didn't see them at the register. There wasn't a tip on the table, so I checked the POS to see if they had left me a credit card tip at the register. Nope. Not only did they stiff me, these 2 grown women ran out on a $15 bill after treating me like trash. 3. To table 304, rot in hell. So I'm currently waiting tables at a casual Tex-Mex place, and I usually chat with whoever is the current host and ask if they could not sit babies with me. I hate pretending to be enchanted by random small humans, and then I have to ask at least a handful of questions about the kid. It's just a preference. I of course do pretend if sat with children. So rewind to this afternoon, and I'm sat with 2 women and 4 children. I plaster a smile on my face and introduce myself, and about 8 words out, the mother of the children looks up at me, and says, 2 adult waters, 4 kids waters. And then she looks back down and, I guess in her mind, she was dismissing me. Fine, whatever. I go in the back, make their drinks, chips, salsa, and deliver it back to the table that condoms forgot. Edit, all the children were 4 and under. The kids promptly start making a large mess with the chips, and of course immediately emptied their drinks, which is fine, kids are thirsty. But the 2 older kids start whining for soda on the deaf ears of both their mother and grandmother. I ask in my peppiest tone, did you all have any questions about the menu for? At this point the mother reached out her arm across the table and waved it at her mother, who looked at me like I wasn't even speaking, and started ordering. Okay. I'm annoyed that I'm obviously a non-entity to this table, but most of my other tables haven't been such asshats. So I try and keep perspective. Here's where things start going sideways. I always repeat what a person orders back to them, either as they're ordering it or directly after. So these people let their children order for themselves, and the oldest child orders nachos off the children's menu, points to it and everything. I pick up their menus once they've all ordered, put it in, and tend to my other tables for a bit. To be fair, their ticket time was a little long, but I checked on them and their meals, but they already hated me, so not too concerned. 15 minutes go by, and I stop to see if they need water or anything, and the mother is super annoyed, because the two top got their plain nachos before they got their 5 different entrees. I tell her their meal is almost ready, whatever. Their meal comes out like 5 minutes later, and it's exactly what they ordered. On my way to check on their meal, the grandma waves me over. She's pointing at the eldest child's nachos, and asks me, "Is this the children's nachos?" I affirm that it is, only to be told, "Oh, well, he wanted the regular nachos." All I can do at this point is get my manager, and I explain that he pointed to kids' nachos. I wrote kids' nachos, this is totes McGo, it's not my fault. Manager goes, talks to my table, orders them another kid nacho, which I found out got comped to me, whatever. They get the nachos, eat, I drop their tab, thank them, for what I have no idea, and give them a second to settle the bill. The grandmother gets up, hands me cash for their tab, and I smile, and state that I'll be right back with her change. "Oh, no need. That's short, and unless you get your manager to comp some stuff off that ticket, which I think she should, you're not getting a tip either." Roast in hell, you fucking twats.